Monitors have been a growing interest of mine, and it's one of the biggest things that we've covered on the channel recently because there are just so many that have released this year that have been so good. And surprisingly, it's one of the biggest things that I get asked about. Like if I'm playing Overwatch and someone recognizes me in game, one of the first things that they'll say is like, hey, what 240Hz monitor do you recommend? So I thought I'd sit down, make a proper list of the monitors that I would actually buy at different price points. And the criteria is pretty simple, right? Gaming. I'm not interested in productivity or 4K for this particular list. This is especially focused on competitive shooters as well. That's kind of what I'm mostly interested in. So we're after fast response times with minimal ghosting, good colors, good contrast, and of course, good value as well. So starting all the way at the bottom is a monitor which absolutely just blew me away this year. I bought it randomly on Amazon for 115 bucks, you know, wondering if this thing would be any good. If so, I'll do a video on it. And yeah, it just has no right being this good for that amount of money. And it is the Kurai 24E3. It's a 1080p, 165Hz IPS panel, which is surprisingly not a scam. I mean, you throw this thing on a budget monitor arm and yeah, it is insane value for the money. Surprisingly, you've got a really wide range of colors despite the really low price point, and the ghosting is way lower than I expected. This thing has like 3 to 4 millisecond response times, which at like $100 is so good. After I did all of my proper testing on this monitor, I played some games on it, and yeah, it legitimately feels like a $200 plus monitor. Now, if you want to jump up to 240Hz, or maybe you've just got a bit more cash to spend on something that feels a bit more smoother to play on, that's where I'd recommend the ViewSonic XG2431. 240Hz monitor, which you can usually find for about 280 bucks, and the backlight strobing mode, which is the blur reduction mode, specifically feels really good on this monitor. Now, this monitor is almost 2 years old now, so if I'm being completely honest, it is a bit of a reluctant recommendation, but I don't know, there's just nothing happening in that 1080p 240Hz development which has really kind of popped up and blown me away. Most of the panel development recently has been for 1440p displays and 360Hz plus. When it comes to 1080p 240Hz, it's been kind of neglected. The XG2431 still kind of seems like the best option today. And for those wondering, I would buy this over the Zowie XL25 40K at the same price, and in many ways it does beat the 2546K, which just should not still be a $500 monitor in 2023, let's be honest. Next is a monitor which I haven't actually reviewed, and to be honest, a lot of these $300 to $500 monitors have just flown under my radar. I've been so focused on the super enthusiast stuff like the OLEDs and the, 360Hz and 540Hz stuff. I guess I just haven't had a lot of enthusiasm for the mid-range stuff as much, but there is a lot of cool stuff happening below that $500 price point. In this price range, you now have quite a few mid-range, but still decent 240Hz IPS 1440p options. The main one that I'd personally be looking at is the M27QX from Gigabyte, but you also have a few good options from MSI. I think I'll grab a few of these for a future video and see which one is most worth picking up. But yeah, from the reviews that I've watched so far, the M27QX seems like the best performer in terms of response times, and at the moment you can find it for about 450 bucks. Now at 600 bucks, you've actually got a couple of options depending on what you're after. So if you're mostly interested in 1440p, I would go with the Asus XG27AQM-R. This one is 1440p 300Hz IPS. I have actually reviewed the non-R version of this monitor, and yeah, was really impressed with it. If however you want to stick to 1080p, maybe you're more on the sweaty gamer side of things and you exclusively play games like CS, Valorant, and Overwatch, then I would actually go for the Zowie XL25 66K. It is kind of hard for me to recommend a TN monitor at $600 if I'm being completely honest, especially alongside the XG27AQM-R, which does get you a lot more monitor for the money if we're looking at it like that, but I still did want to put the 2566K on here somewhere. It's 1080p, which is a bit easier to drive in terms of frame rates, your input lag will potentially be a little bit lower, and 360Hz with response times below 1.5 milliseconds, yeah, this is a really fast monitor. My only issue with this monitor is the limited color range. You do get some banding and color blobbing, especially with the oranges and reds. You can tone these down a bit in the menu, but yeah, the color experience here is pretty limited. Now beyond 600 bucks, I would say that we're easily in the enthusiast price range, and here I would personally be looking at the 1440p OLEDs. The image quality that you get from that panel is just, I mean, I can't unsee it. The contrast, the amount of colors, the 0 millisecond response times with the, practically no ghosting, you just get a really sharp and really pure image. Now I've reviewed both the LG and the Asus, but the one that I'd personally go for is the one from AOC. They all use the exact same panel, so the performance is identical. identical, but the AOC is the cheapest at $800, and it actually gets the brightest as well, which is really interesting. Now, I actually used the LG OLED for about 8 months. It was a really good monitor. Basically, I just kept using it ever since it launched until this next monitor landed on my desk, the 540Hz from Asus. I've got to be honest, I'm pretty much only playing Overwatch 2 these days. You know, when I have the time to play games, that's all I really want to sit down and play, you know, try and rank up, try and get better. And 540Hz in that game is just something else completely. Like in a game where you can actually drive that many frames, you seriously feel like you're not looking at a screen, you're looking through a window. I've also completely forgotten that it's a TN panel. You know, I thought I'd really hate that, but the color and contrast here is actually really good. Completely abnormal actually from what you'd expect from TN. Definitely a lot better than what you'd see from a Zowie. The response times are lightning quick as well. I mean, I measured this thing below 1 millisecond on average, which is just insane. At $900 though, it's still a really hard recommendation, but it is just so different at the moment. I am confident that this 540Hz panel will hit the market in a much cheaper form from maybe Acer or Alienware, for example. Hopefully we see it closer to 650, 700, so a lot more people can try this out. But yeah, this is what I've been using lately, have been really enjoying my time with it. And of course, I have to mention probably the best monitor that launched this year, which is the Asus PG27AQN. It's the most expensive monitor on this list at $1,000, but it also does the most with the least amount of downsides. 1440p, 360Hz, the fastest IPS response times that I've tested, and it also has the best backlight strobing mode on the market, which is ULMB2. It is kind of tough though. You know, the OLED gives you a noticeably higher quality 1440p image, and then you've got the 540Hz now, which gives you a smoother, more competitive feel. But definitely, if you're looking for that one monitor that can kind of do everything, the PG27AQN is actually impossible to beat. But that's pretty much it. Those are the monitors which I would personally buy right now. A lot of really good ones which have launched this year. Hopefully this helps you out if you're looking for an upgrade, and I will leave them linked down below if you're interested in picking them up.